Okay, welcome back, everybody. So I hope you've been staying well. We are now into our week 3 activity. Before we get started, just a couple reminders that when you are doing these activities, it's more about mastery than just rushing and getting them done or anything like that. Because I'm very proud to say that the students who are getting them in are doing fabulous jobs. I love that so far. But don't be afraid to get them in because there is no formal due date on all of these. And if you don't do the best on the assignment, it's okay. I don't put the grade up. The only way your grades are input is if it makes your grade go higher. So don't worry about that, everybody. So please engage this. Talk to your friends. Get them more engaged with it. The more of you that are doing this, the more fun things I'm going to try to get involved with as well. Put a little bit more time and engagement into it. So, with that, though, we will move on to this. So, the challenges to following Christ's teachings is our topic this week, and it comes from Outcome 20.9. So, last week's activity, we had you going out and evangelizing. However, I had you reflect on some challenges you might face. For this week's activity, we are going to dive more into those specific troubles. I will be posting a more detailed discussion video that is this. So showing you some different ways to approach this. So I'm going to go through the actual steps to this. So once again, your task is to reflect on the challenges to living a life according to Christ's teachings. So there's a few different ways to look at this. I highly recommend just follow the step-by-step questions. It will really help guide you through this. So first, what does it mean to live according to Christ's teachings? So if you want to look at the challenges of it, you have to first look at what are Christ's teachings. So what specific everyday actions would this include? So when we think of Christ's teachings, just look at the Christ narrative itself. And we've already looked about Jesus, the idea of forgiveness, the idea of being willing to suffer to help others, just even being wanting to help others. When we think of works of charity, of love, of compassion, the different all the different narratives that we get from that story and how we're supposed to live our lives with prudence and fortitude according to justice. And so when we think of that, consider what those everyday actions might include. Consider what those everyday actions might include for you. You're going to want to be as specific as possible, include as many as possible. Don't don't cut yourself short. So when I talk about this, what does it mean to live according to Christ's teachings? That one is, once again, it's very simple. So what specific everyday actions could this include, though? This is where maybe it's forgiving a sibling. These are all just examples. You can use these if you want to. Potentially, I want more than just these. I will be watching for them. That's showing forgiveness, and it's very simple, especially right now. I'm sure a lot of you, if you have a sibling that's living with you, you've been probably getting on each other's nerves quite a bit already. So I hope that this one maybe helps you a little bit. Maybe it's just as simple as donating some time or money. Right now, we have a lot of time on our hands. If we're not working another job, not doing too much with the online work, we have a lot of extra time. So use some of that time or money. It could even just be an expertise. Share your expertise with people. Help them out. Help them with a subject they're struggling in. It could be anything. Evangelize. Do more of last week's stuff. Well, what were some of those examples you came up with already? There's some amazing ones. And it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to change the world. So when you think of that, just think of those specific different daily actions that would help you live in Christ's teachings. Maybe it's even anything. It could be posting online. That's another big one. Next, though, what would make it difficult to live a life according to these teachings? So you want to think of the challenges one might face, and this could range from government policy to social persecution to personal fear and everything in between. What helps is if you have a nice list up here for the first step, you have things to address. So if I think of forgiving a sibling, what might make it difficult for forgiving a sibling? I personally think of my own personal ego. Sometimes it's difficult to forgive somebody, or maybe they don't want forgiveness. So when you look at that, it can be very difficult. When you look at some other challenges, maybe donating some time or money or expertise. So when you look at that difficulty, maybe you're scared. Lots of us are scared to step out, to go out and do something new. Maybe when we look at this, we're not scared. We haven't taken the time. We just don't know what to do. I look at evangelism. Here's another big one. Maybe you're afraid of the persecution that you're going to receive from others, made fun of, uh, joked about behind your back, or to your face. When you think about those social pressures can be a real big difference in our lives. They can make a big impact on us and what we want to do. Not only that, though, but what are we evangelizing? We think of actual government legislation. So when we think of the right to protest, when are we being shot down with that? The right to life, the dignity and value for every life, where we're not allowed to necessarily say that. You look at government funding that said if your group is pro-life, you can't pay summer students. So when you look at those examples, you can really see how that could scare you. Same with posting online. Trolls, that's always a scary one. Who wants to deal with trolls? Nobody wants to deal with a troll. They're annoying, they're not good. No one wants to deal with that stuff. Maybe you're afraid you don't understand enough. Maybe you just feel that if I reach out and people contradict me, I'm not going to know how to defend it. So when you look at that, there's a wide variety. You can tie them back to the ideas you had here in the first one, but you don't have to. You can just look at some everyday challenges. Maybe you're afraid of physical assault or anything. Depending on where you travel, even having a Christian tattoo could lead to persecution and arrest. So you have to keep those things in mind. How can you overcome these difficulties? So once again, address specific examples of difficulties with specific ways of overcoming them. This is ones that make it personal for yourselves. Make it very personal. Think of what you're facing in your everyday life. So if you're having a difficulty forgiving someone, and it's because they don't want forgiveness, then what are you going to do about it? Well, maybe you could explain the situation a bit better. Talk about your feelings. Reflect on how you're speaking to them. Are you using I language instead of you language? That's a big one that people don't think about, is the idea of using I language instead of you language so that people don't feel attacked. So how are you addressing the situation? Maybe that's how you're going to overcome it. Maybe it's just a simple matter of giving it time. And sometimes that's all people need. Now, once again, we look at living a Christian life, we can see some more extreme examples too, more public ones. So when we think of persecution itself. So when we think of we're trying to spread the word and we're afraid of persecution and being persecuted, how can we overcome that risk of persecution or those difficulties? One of them is to maybe educate others, help to educate them on our cause. If you want to do that, you're going to have to make sure that you are being calm on yourself as well, that you're not coming out there, that you're not leading with aggression. You have to lead by example, just as Christ calls us to do. We must be servants of the word. We must live it in our everyday lives. Fearing that persecution, you know what? This is one that we don't always like to hear, but maybe we need to accept that persecution. Knowing that by accepting it, not accepting it and saying that's right, but accepting it in the fact that we treat them differently. Treat them with, yes, what's my favorite word? Love. Oh, treat them with love. That's the big one right there. So maybe we could work on that a little bit. So when you look at this, give me lots of different ways of overcoming these. Maybe you have multiple ways of overcoming a specific situation. Maybe you only have one or two specific ways that you really think would work. But this is your chance to brainstorm. And once again, make it very specific to yourself. Think to yourself, are you one of those individuals that at the start of the year said, I'm afraid to talk about my faith? And I'm sorry, there's a lot of you. I'd say easily a third of our class said, I'm afraid to express my faith. Well, look at that. Why are you afraid to express that faith, and how can you overcome that difficulty? Use your own example. Once again, I'm having you guys engage this, though. There is no actual set value. So when we look at the last one, why is it worth the struggle? This is all a reflection on your guys' behalf. Because as we learned, there's a lot of difficulties, and these difficulties are not easy to overcome. A lot of the time in our life, it'd be easier just to step away, just to take the easy way out. But as Christians, we're called not to just do that, not to take the easy way out, but to live through that. So why is it worth, there you go, why is it worth the struggle? Why is it worth the struggle? That's a big question we have to ask ourselves. And so that's going to be that final part of that reflection. So if you do have any more questions, let me know. The notes are all on here, so if you need them, these are some brief notes. You can just pause the video and get them off of here. Otherwise, you can just rewatch the video. If you do have any more questions, though, do not hesitate to ask. Once again, I do not have a specific number of examples on here because you always know me. I want you just doing the best that you can do. If you feel that you have more examples to give, then give them. You guys are the judges. You know how much effort you've put in. If you feel you only put in 80% effort, then you only put in 80% effort. Keep in mind, this should take you about 3 hours, and it's almost all reflection based. So this is going to be a lot of just sitting with yourself this week. I'm not expecting you to watch a video. I'm not expecting you to research a whole bunch of new meanings. The most you're going to have to do is maybe look up a couple Christian teachings here, a couple of our Christian teachings on how to live our lives. But so when you're looking at that, it's not that difficult. Just spend some time, reflect, and you'll do great. So with that, as always, I love you guys. I'm missing you dearly, as I say every week. I hope you're staying safe and well. Stay tuned. Keep some questions coming in. I haven't had any asked of me in a little while here, so I'd love it if I got a few more questions in to address with you guys. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful week.